My name is Lucy Farley. I'm English, half Danish, living in Cologne, born in London and always lived in London, so I haven't lived abroad before. With my parents, when I grew up, I always travelled around Europe and sailed with them a lot. We lived on a boat when I was younger. My dad's a really keen sailor. So that was an interesting way to see the landscape. I think the biggest effect on my work, especially this exhibition now, is a trip that I did when I was 7 with my parents. We lived in America for a while and then decided to move on. But before we did that, my parents rented a station wagon, one of the kind of classic American ones with the wood panels. And we did a trip right the way around America for a couple of months, and I sat in the back. And that's been the most, I think from childhood, that's had the biggest impact on what I saw and what landscape meant to me. And I wanted to revisit that feeling somehow as an adult. So I proposed to my boyfriend that we should go on a trip. It would be my dream trip to recreate the same drive around America. So we did that. Most of the work from this show is kind of born out of that. So the southern states in particular. I've been so stuck in a great way in the deep south because it was so pungent and traditional and amazingly weird, actually. Spooky, cozy, everything, amazing place. My main inspiration for this show has been Richard Diebenkorn. He was a West Coast abstract expressionist from America. I'm really influenced by the abstract expressionists, so both sides of the coast, the New York school, de Kuchling and Franz Klein, and then the more figurative abstract expressionists from the West Coast. But I think what I mainly get from them is just the immediacy of the way they handle paint and the way they embody themselves in the paintings through the sheer speed of the way they paint. But similarly, same time in England, the post-war British artists have been a really big influence on me. The neo-romantics, actually, they were called. They're Keith Vaughan. He's my main one from this period. Kind of different to the abstract expressionists in that they have a slightly more subtle, melancholy approach, but they use the landscape as a kind of metaphor for what had happened at that time. I suppose it's to get under the skin of a place. It's to be somewhere and capture the spirit of a place and the people that live there and the history of it. And I need to have an emotional connection with the place. So in some ways, I suppose that makes my work about it quite autobiographical, because I tend to project sort of my emotional states upon whatever I'm drawing in that landscape or cityscape. My work always starts from drawing. So wherever I go, I'll take books like this sort of size. Often they're not meant to be seen, they're just for me privately to get information down. And they don't really even need to succeed as works, but they're just ways of capturing where I am quickly. These are actually from the Caribbean, when my father crossed the Atlantic and I met him once he'd finished the trip, and I'd never drawn anything like that before. I'd never been there, so I just took this with me. And this is the most important part of the work, where this starts, because this is where the ideas happen and where I start the thinking. So I'll come back with a full book, and then the work gradually builds in size. So it will turn into sketches like this when I come back to the studio, and then they'll evolve into more abstract works. And then I'll try and forget about the initial sketch and then just go with what's coming back to me from what I've seen. The works that you'll see in the show, which unfortunately I have no paintings here because they've all gone to Berlin, they're very multi-layered, so I never really know where they're going to end up. So I start off with a collage. So I've got a whole pile of coloured papers there that I paint on, and I build the surface that way. So I build them up and I scrape them away and use, like, there's always old credit cards and anything I can find, I kind of take the paint back. And it relates in a way to the way I make prints, because I'm a printmaker. I just always wanted that feel of print in my work, but I didn't know how to do it. And since I did my master's in it, it's fed into my painting. So I make paintings like I print in a way. My cats help me because they keep me calm, and I can get a little bit worked up when I'm on my own working in here. And I think with anyone that works by themselves, whether you're an artist or, you know, whatever you do, if you're on your own, you know, you need to get out of your head sometimes. So they help in that they just remind me that sometimes it's just about putting paint on paper and just be nice to myself.